There is nothing worse than untapped potentials. If you know that you're made for more, this is the place. I know that every successful person I've ever met has one thing in common. They do not let themselves fall victim to their circumstances. They figure out a way to rise above it. So join me on this journey where I help you to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business. If you're feeling stuck and you're needing some practical tools, some hope to get you to that better life, this is definitely a place for you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Unstuck Podcast, and I get a chance to have an amazing conversation with my new friend, Michelle Thompson. You guys, she is a performance guru. She is somebody who literally can take you from 0 to 100 because she literally has all of the tools, the knowledge, the expertise to take all of our mucky, messy, inside of our brain stuff to literally refine the diamonds that are within us and make us exactly what we were put on this earth to do. Michelle, thank you so much for popping in today to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm so excited for our conversation.
I'm so excited too. Thank you so much for asking me to join your podcast.
Girl, okay, so you do a better job of describing kind of who you are, all the hats that you wear, the way that you show up in the world and help people. Can you kind of give us a little insight into who you are today? What are you most passionate about, and how are you trying to help people?
Okay, so I'm kind of everything wrapped up in one kind of person. So basically what happened is I was working on myself, and I just kept on taking more courses and became more educated in certain areas. And when I started my career, I basically had this long ass list that was on my door in my office that I had to use the smallest font because there was so many different things, and I didn't really know how to title it because I had the ability to use all these different modalities. But as I started my practice, I started noticing that when I started tapping into all of them and started using all of them, this massive transformation happened, as opposed to just using this one particular type of modality. A lot of people know NLP. A lot of people are hypnotherapists. Some people are cognitive therapists. Some people are, they use all these different types of techniques. They may be a life coach, or, they study with one particular person. However, I've done it all. And what I did was I took all the modalities and I wrapped them all up in a pretty little package, because I started noticing that when I did everything, it was basically hitting every corner of the brain. What I do. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No. I love that. Just keep going. I love learning more about what you do.
So I am what you would call a person that does total transformation on somebody. Everything that I do, I go from 0 to 100. I take somebody who's completely broken, or just somebody who's sort of middle of the road, and they really don't know how to kind of take that next level. But the reason I call myself a performance guru is because majority of my clients are business women. And they're business women that want to level up. They want to go to the next level. They want to be the better version of themselves. So not only do I work with them on being the best version and clearing all this stuff out that's causing all the problems, the mindset issues, the self-worth, the fear, everything that's holding them back from, having that kind of success. What I do is I clear it all out. Then I heal the issues that caused it. And then we start working on stepping into that power. And a lot of people that I have worked with have become millionaires, very, very successful, very powerful women in the industry. And that's why I call myself a performance guru. It's because a guru does everything. They're sort of spiritual manifesting, it's like the whole one shop, you go to your guru because they know everything kind of thing. So that's kind of where it comes in, is I'm the person that you go to, and I won't just hit one small area or just use this one style. I'm going to look in every single crack and crevice, and I'm going to find out where's the problem, how do we stop it, and how do we fix it, and what do we need to do to move forward.
One of the things that I think is so fascinating is that when we have a business, especially when we're entrepreneurs, it almost like it puts a magnifying glass on all of the things that we should have dealt with, like in our whole life, like since we were 10, right? Because all of a sudden we start to recognize that there's a monetary reward attached to our personal development and our personal growth. And where we level up, we can add more, gifts to the world, and we can basically earn more money, right? And we start to find that, holy crap, like I'm really not as confident as I thought I was, or, oh my gosh, like I really am fearing rejection, or all of these things that have been literally following us like little shadows our whole lives. Yeah. And it's really just this, magnifying glass of being an entrepreneur that makes people not only recognize it, but also being willing to do something about it. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, well, the thing is that a lot of people don't realize that the problems are really deep, and they kind of want to like do sort of like a couple of sessions or put a Band-Aid on it. Michelle, will you hypnotize me to make me more disciplined, and they want those fast fixes. And I don't do that. So I tell them if they want a fast fix, then I can refer them to somebody who will be willing to do that. But I don't do that. I don't do Band-Aids. Yeah. I literally go in, I reprogram the brain. There was, for a long time ago, I called myself a reprogrammer, remapper, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like remapping the neurotransmitters of the brain. Yeah. It's a little bit scary to say that because a lot of people get really afraid of that. So I shifted it and, changed the wording. But the bottom line is we're going into the core issues of where the problems are. And we're doing a deep dive, and we just keep on peeling that onion back until we find out where the problem is. We bring it out into the open. We look at it. We ask ourselves, does it serve us? What can we, when we're looking at that, how does that compare to what we want to do or who we are as a person now? Are we still being victimized? Possibly, but maybe not. Maybe that was something way far in your past, but you're still allowing that inner child to carry you, to speak for you. And so what we do is we work on healing that aspect that has had trauma.
100%. And yeah, that's amazing. And so when we really get very clear on the things that have been holding us back for a really long time, I'm guessing that the people that you work with start to have breakthroughs in their relationships, in their business, in their, body self-image, in all of the things, because all of them, in my opinion anyway, are tied to one another. So if I am held back in my business because I fear rejection, where else am I fearing rejection in my life? And how am I, exhibiting that? Am I exhibiting codependent behavior? Am I, people pleasing? Am I all the things? And there's so much that trickles down. And so what you do is you get to the core that basically fixes the meat of it.
Well, it's like you think that you have to fix the problem right now of the surface problem. Okay. So you're looking at the surface and you're saying, okay, I'm not disciplined, or I'm not motivated, or I have all these blocks, or I have all these fears. And you're just looking at that and you're like, Michelle, hypnotize me. Michelle, make it go away. And I could, if I wanted to, just do a one-off or something like that with somebody, but it doesn't fix it. There's a lot of people out there that will do 1, 2, or 3 sessions, but I don't do that. I look at it and I say, okay, why aren't you disciplined? When's the last time you felt that way? What do you feel when you feel that way? We just keep on peeling and peeling and peeling, and usually it goes back to trauma. About 90% of most of the women that I deal with, surprisingly, will shock you, have been through trauma in their childhood, emotional, physical, or sexual. And that trauma creates so much insecurity in who they are and what they're trying to achieve in their life. It creates problems in their relationships, the current ones. It creates problems in their family, their ability to be a mother. There's so many issues that come up in business. Business is where it usually shows up the strongest. Because when you're trying to put yourself out there and you're trying to be successful and you're having to get it in front of people,
Yeah.
suddenly those insecurities and those fears of being judged start coming out. And that's why I focus on the businesswoman, because that's where most of the people that have these kind of problems are. They're going in this area and they're not succeeding. So I kind of hammer into that little avatar of women professionals trying to achieve success in their life.
And how would you define trauma? Because I think that one of the things that I have found, especially when we deal with women, is that we shame ourselves into thinking that what we experienced wasn't difficult enough to be labeled a trauma. Therefore, we start that cycle again, that victimization cycle, because now, like, why am I so weak? Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. I have a client that I was working with for a while, and it was somewhere around the 6-month mark where she actually admitted to me that her husband used to beat her. She said that she has never, ever, ever said that out loud. And when she heard herself say it, she realized it was true. It's almost like we shut this area of our mind down, and we tell ourselves it's not true, because that's how we're going to deal with it. Oh, he's not that bad. Oh, he's only bad when he's drinking. Oh, it's, he's really nice to me when he doesn't. It's because he's had a bad day, all that kind of stuff. But I think the area that a lot of people do not put a lot of consideration into is emotional abuse. A lot of people experience emotional abuse, and because they were victimized as a child, they react in such a way that it's not their fault, okay, but it antagonizes the problem. So for instance, let's just say hypothetically that your husband had a bad day and he gets a little snippy with you, or he'll go, "You forgot to turn off the light," or something like that, right? Man
Have
thing.
You been here?
The guy,
have you been in this house?
yeah, exactly. You forgot to turn off the lights.
Like, I wonder where the kids get their not turning off the light from. And then he laughs. We laugh about it.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's a guy thing. Okay. I mean, I don't know a man who doesn't get snippy or complain about things or wants, you know what I mean? It's just their genetics.
Yeah.
But a person like me is going to go, "Oh, no problem. Thanks for telling me." Or I'm going to say, or he's going to do it, and I'm going to say, "Thank you. Appreciate it." I don't overreact. But a person that's sitting in the space of playing the role of a victim, what they'll do is they'll take something like that and then they'll dramatize it. "Why do you always get so upset with me? It's just the light." And they just start going into that role, and they start acting as if this person just killed their cat. It's an over exaggerated emotion that comes from the trauma. So basically what happens is that the child experiences abuse. Okay. And the child never has instruction or therapy or something to overcome it. So she becomes fearful that everybody's going to hurt her. So she grows up still with the emotional part there. So every time that you experience anything that disrupts where you are, the brain attaches it to that trauma. So it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Somebody says, "Are you going to change clothes?" All of a sudden you go into hysterics. "You don't like the way I look. Why are you doing this? You never compliment me." It's just a blown up event that comes from the way your brain is programmed. Your brain is programmed to respond that way because it thinks anytime that anything isn't going, quote unquote, exactly the way you want it to, it's experiencing, I've got to prevent from pain. Oh, yeah, you got to do this. It's what happens is that your brain actually attaches different things and it kind of hides it all together in one little ball, and you get trapped in a loop. It's a looping pattern that ends up happening, and your brain gets locked in that. And so you just kind of keep on re-experiencing every time he says this, I said this, I feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time when I'm talking to people, majority of the time, the things that they're complaining about, sometimes they're justified, but most of the time it's their reaction. And their reaction is causing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody that I was working with that actually told me, because we're in the new stages of it, and she actually told me that she was feeling very resentful towards her husband. And I said, why? And she said, because I can't be myself. And I said, okay, we need to talk about this.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's a big deal.
Because what she is the over the top, dramatized, take it to the next level, kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, is that the person you want to be? And she said, no, but I want to be loved and accepted. I don't want to feel like I always have to edit myself, or I can't have feelings. And now all of a sudden I have to shut down. And I said, no. You are misunderstanding. Your passion and excitement and enthusiasm about your pain scares the living crap out of your husband. He doesn't like it. Okay. And so it makes him really uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that you can't have feelings. It just means that you need to change your approach and the way that you deal with him and how you express your feelings. You don't have to have a complete meltdown. You just need to express yourself differently. And I explained to her, she's like, but it's who I am. It's who I am. And I'm like, no, it is not who you are. This is who you became because of the trauma. It is a trauma response that you are experiencing. And so one of the things that I told her is, if you were to get amnesia, okay, and I want you to think about this just for a second, okay?
Yeah.
You think of who you are and how you respond to things and what makes you happy and what makes you sad.
Yeah.
These are all based on your experiences in your life. I can walk into my mom's house and immediately, subconsciously, I don't know why, but I always get hungry every single time, and it's just like, why? Because mom's always does these home cooked meals and it's this good feeling, around it, all that kind of stuff. So if she doesn't have food there, I'm like, it's that feeling, because you're like, you're supposed to have this. This is the feeling I get. It's a program, mom's going to have home cooked meals when you get there. And it's the same thing. So what happens is all those feelings and all those thoughts and all those opinions that you have about things are all based on your life experiences.
Right.
But if you wipe them all away and you end up in the hospital with amnesia, you don't remember any of that stuff. Who are you going to be? Who are you actually? So I'm going to ask you that question. Who are you?
That's a good question. I've never been like coached like this on the show. If I didn't have anybody, who am I? Who do I want to be? I think that's honestly
everything. See, but all of your desires are even based on your experiences. So you take all that away.
Yeah.
And who are you actually? I mean, that's a hard question. This is one of the questions I always ask my clients, because I'm trying to step them away from the attachment to the outcome, the attachment to the feelings, the attachment to the fear. And when you step away from that and you say, who am I? And you really think about it, nobody ever gets it. Okay. By the way, I've actually been interviewed several times, and that's one of my key questions I always ask people. Is like, okay, let's do this little exercise. Who are you?
Yeah.
And you're not your body. You're not a mother. You're not a wife. These are experiences. Okay, so that doesn't make who you are. And you're not all your experiences, and you're not your emotions, because the emotions come from the experiences. So who are you? And I can sit here and ask you all day long, but you're going to have a hard time coming up with that, because you're going to be like, geez, that leaves me with nothing. Okay. But you're not going to be nothing. You're not going to be a brain dead person walking around, even if you have amnesia, will you? No. There's this inner core of your being. It's a desire. It's called a spirit. And there's this inner spirit within you that has come into this world to experience certain things, and it's going to have, and there's this internal passion that's somewhere in there, and it's your spirit. And that spirit's going to drive you in the direction if you listen to it, but most people don't.
Right.
They suppress it and they listen to the subconscious and their experiences and their hurt and their pain. So what I do is I scrape all that stuff away and try to get to the spirit. Okay. We're looking for that. We want to uncover that passion. We want to get into who the core of who you really are, that real person, and then set that person in motion, letting you get really attached to your spirit, and then let your spirit get attached to your higher self. And then you really start to experience that connection with the universe and God and everything. And then suddenly your whole world opens up. Like, it's like as if you suddenly, won the lotto, or the universe just opens up the heavens for you. I mean, the gates just go flooding, and it's like, whoa, here you go. And that's because you become in alignment with your spirit. And when you get there, it's an amazing thing.
That is amazing. And I think that one of the things that I am so excited to continue our conversation around is the recognition, right? That even though you might have experienced trauma, maybe it was emotional, abuse from bullying when you were a kid, maybe it was from your parents, maybe it was from whatever, you have experienced all of this stuff. You have this traumatic experience that has been acted out in all of the different things that you have going on in your life. But what you're telling us is that your hope, you tell us there's hope. There's hope that we could reprogram our brains, our subconscious, our programming that has made us in the defense, stance, trying to protect ourselves, trying to protect our ego, and really getting back into spirit. And I love that so much. So you guys, all right, girlfriend. So why don't you go ahead and kind of give us the rest of that story, right? Take us down that path of hope where we can no longer accept that everything that has happened to us, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, defines us, but that we get a chance to write our own next chapter, the rest of our story. So keep talking, girlfriend. This is amazing.
Okay. So there is hope. Okay. And most people feel like there is no hope. They feel like they're hopeless. They feel like they're doomed. They will say, I have clinical depression, I'm ADHD, and all these other labels that they put on themselves. Yep. Okay. And they use that as a tool to stay in that same place. Okay. But you don't have to stay in that same place. You don't have to take ownership of that diagnosis. You can take control of the diagnosis, and you can choose to shift the way your brain thinks. So the brain is a very amazing thing. And I don't know if you know this or not. I mean, you probably do because you're so smart, but I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know.
No, but we like to geek out on the same stuff. So that's the only reason, you guys, is she thinks that I probably know it because she knows that I love the same stuff that she does. So not because I'm smart.
Well, yeah. But anyway, so here's the thing. And most people don't know this, is every time that you learn something and you learn it well, you actually create 1,200 new neurotransmitters. That means you get smarter. Now, if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will, because every single client that I work with that actually completes the process with me, not the ones that drop out because they can't afford it or whatever, or it's just too hard and they can't deal with it or something. But the ones that actually follow through, every single one of those people, they come out of it ahead. They come out of it with a shift inside of them. And that shift is because they're actually smarter. I mean, completely smarter.
Yeah, like, that's amazing.
I have literally seen people that couldn't read. I mean, I've had people come to me that had problems with comprehension and reading, and suddenly they were able to do it easily and fast. I mean, you think that you would have to go put yourself right back to school, but the thing is that the brain is already there. It just needs that part plugged in and turned on.
Yes.
You know? And it's just such an interesting thing. I'm personally a huge geek on the brain. That is my gig. I love the brain. It is such an amazing thing. I love the fact that I can take anybody and transform them. Now, the reason I go into Performance Guru is because I do focus primarily, not 100%, but I do focus a lot on women, entrepreneurs, business women. So many women are coming into their own power. I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of women are making a lot more money than their husbands, and their husbands are retiring. And I mean, gosh, almost every person that I know, these women are making so much more money, and the husbands are staying at home, or they're working part-time, or they're retired, and I focus on bringing women into their power, like that inner goddess. Let them come out and shine and be powerful and amazing. I do that because that's what I love. I love to bring a woman into her own personal empowerment and see that success. Just watch it like blossom into this amazingness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful. So I teach people how to get into that space. So we have to reprogram the brain. We have to heal the trauma. And then we get into the instruction on stepping into that power. Now that we don't have all the blocks and the pain and the programming and all that kind of stuff, clearing it all out. And then we step into, okay, so now we cleared it out. Some people, they're like, okay, thanks for clearing it out. And then they just go off. And what are you going to do? You haven't put anything back in.
Right.
So I teach them problem solving, skill building, how to alchemize their own emotions on call immediately. Like with one of your friends that introduced us, we're actually in the phase right now where I told her, I said, okay, so I'm going to teach you how to go on, off. It's like emotion, shift. Like you can literally like go off, on, and there's so many cool things that you can do when you learn. I call it alchemizing your emotions, and you can alchemize that. And if any of you guys don't know what alchemize means, years ago, long time ago, when the old days, they had these scientists that were called alchemists. And what they did was they took silver and they turned it into gold. Well, what's happened over the years is people have used that term and turned it into kind of a slogan as transformation. It's like you're taking something that's silver and you're turning it into gold. So basically that's what I do. Is a person that has no control over their emotions, now they have control. And they can tap into it and they can utilize it on call as they choose.
So I'm going to ask you a question about this, because I think that this is something that I personally have struggled with, is that I get my mind preventing me from feeling an emotion, because I try to talk myself out of feeling it. Like, oh, you're stronger than that. Like, buck up. So I think that I would love to know, like, how do you let the emotion come through you? Like you just talked about.
So, right. So I have the same problem, by the way.
Weird.
Seriously, I joke around a lot, like when I'm doing some of my own podcasts and stuff. And I said, I am queen of suppression, because I have learned how to shut it down. But when I know that I need to let it out, because if I don't let it out, what ends up happening for me is it'll manifest physically.
Yep.
So I had a recent situation with something that was happening in my family, and it was causing a lot of stress. Okay. And there was, and I had phone calls every day, text messages all day long. Help, it was like all this, like reaching and pulling on me, and me dropping everything and going over there, and just a lot.
Yeah.
And then, I called my mom, and she's crying and she's all upset and she's got heart problems, and, she's very upset. So that upsets me. So there's this, and I have to be the one in control. And I have to be the one that's kind of helping everybody calm down.
Right.
Let's think logically about how to manage the situation, how we can handle it, you know. But it affected me, because there's a person that I love more than anybody in this whole world who is literally falling apart and nobody knows what to do. Okay. And it was an undiagnosed situation that came from a lot of extreme trauma. And I don't want to really get into it too much, but she literally started losing cognitive thinking and started talking in riddles and saying things that didn't make sense, and then screaming and yelling at everybody, and talking about things that just outside of your own comprehension. You don't even know what there is, what they're saying. And so we finally got some help to help the situation, but it was affecting me because this person really love, and to see her going through this was hard. Okay. Yeah. So what did I do? I started experiencing stomach issues and because I was suppressing it. So, and I was like, and it was like burning really bad. And so I said to my husband, I know why I'm having these stomach issues. It's because I'm not crying. I'm not letting it out. And we started having a conversation, and I said, I need you to do whatever you can do to push the buttons and make me cry. Like, do what you can, because I need to get it out. I need to get it out. I need to talk about it. I need to feel it. I need to talk about why it's making me feel this way. And so as all of a sudden tears started coming up, and I'm like, okay, you're doing a good job. Good. Let's keep going. Make me cry more. And it was really funny because after it was over, I could just feel like my stomach settling down. And I said, okay, I think I did a really good release. Thank you so much. I let it go. And he goes, okay, that'll be $500. Yeah. So the answer to your question is, typically what I do most of the time is I try to stay conscious of what's going on with me, and I allow the emotions to come up, and I will tell myself I'm giving myself 24 hours to feel this because I'm allowing the emotions to come up. I put them in a safe place that I'm not going to be judged. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm not going to be putting it in a situation where somebody's uncomfortable with that. Like, they're uncomfortable with somebody crying, or they don't know what to say to that, or I've never heard of that before. I don't know how to deal with that. It's too much of a shocker or whatever. I don't put my emotions within the wrong people. I do it with people I trust. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I allow the emotions to come out. I feel it as 100%. And then I say, I'm letting it go. I just call it out, and I say, okay, I'm letting this go now. So I've done an actual physical release, and then I say, I'm letting it go. And then when I say to let it go, I really let it go. And I say it with power. Like, I'm letting this go now. And I feel it almost like coming out of me.
Yep.
Yep. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because if I don't do that, because I'm always in control. I've always got control of my emotions. I'm always, monitoring and keeping myself calm. I'm always choosing how I'm going to behave and how I'm going to feel. And so that stuff can get stifled inside,
100%. Yeah. And
so does that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you mentioned, it made me think of one of my favorite books, which is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Right. And how he talks about we are spiritual beings living in a physical body, and that he really acknowledges that we have these emotions, and we have to just like look at it from that spiritual being saying, oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that she's really angry right now? No judgment, just letting it feel. And so thank you for just kind of tying that all together. Okay. So I literally wish that we could spend the entire day chatting because, girl, that we're in alignment. Like, we just became fast friends. And so I think that this is going to be the first of several conversations that we have on the Unstuck podcast. That's just what I'm going to put out there.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up today, I would love to know, what tips and tricks could you give somebody who's listening to start today to get themselves from where they are to where they want to be?
Well, first off, this can't be done alone. Okay. Anybody who does anything like what I do, you can't do it yourself. And I was actually doing a podcast with another colleague of mine who does something very similar as I do. And she was saying it can't be done alone. And I was like, thank you for saying that, because you can't do it by yourself. Because it's like you're too close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I can step back and I can see with a bigger view because I'm not attached to anything that you're going through or you're feeling. I'm not wanting to lean you to the right or to the left. Only thing I want is for you to acknowledge, find it within yourself and be really confident about that answer. I'm just trying to help you find your truest self. Okay. And uncover the muck.
Yes.
I can see things in people that they can't see in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I can spark. Yeah. I can spark greatness. I can spark light. I mean, I'm saying spark, and I do ignite people, but that's not what I meant. I can spot greatness in a person. Mm-hmm. I can see their potential. I can see where they can go. And I can literally like do that with people. And so because I'm like empathic and I don't know what you would call it, intuitive, kind of like I can feel and read energy within a person, and it has its own like language, and I just kind of sit in it and kind of feel it and go, okay, you really want this, but you're saying this, and it's interesting. So to answer your question, the tips, I don't know that I can give you what you're asking for, because the thing is that this can't be done alone.
Yeah.
But what I can do is tell you that there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of knowledge and are really good at it, and they're willing to help you. And there's a lot of people out there that you can follow and kind of start that pathway that put out a lot of free information, like I do. I put out podcasts. I have a Facebook group. It has a lot of value and a lot of content in it. I'm always doing workshops in there that didn't cost anything.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that actually just want to put a dent in the world. They just care about people and they want to help. And you can find those people. You can follow them and you can listen and you can learn and you can put that energy towards it. And then when you get into a position where you're ready to actually hire somebody like me, then you just reach out. And you have to have that right connection, okay? And that's super important. You and I were talking about the chemistry. The chemistry has to be there. I always do a free consult because I need to feel the chemistry within that person, and they need to feel it within me.
Yep.
Because if we don't align, I can't help them.
Right.
And
100%.
It has to. And the other thing is, when you work with somebody, you have to be completely honest with yourself and honest with them. Because if you're lying to yourself and you're lying to them, a lot of times people don't want to be viewed that way. So I've caught a lot of my clients either yesing me or lying to me.
Right.
Because they don't want to be viewed broken.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they can be because they're broken. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, that's the thing, because I'm in the coaching space, right? I have so many friends that are also in the coaching space. So I have people that would help me if I needed it. But I'm like, I don't want them to see my yuck underneath there, gosh, what if they found out? But I think that you have to be able to let that go in order for you to be able to refine that inner self, to be able to find that gold within inside of you. You have to.
Well, it requires trust.
Yes, 100%.
It requires trust. And that's why I do the consults, because we have to see if we can bond. I have a person that I trust, and everybody, coaches have coaches, So if I go through something that I need somebody to step me outside of what I would call a hamster wheel. Okay. So I'm recognizing that I'm doing this pattern and I need to step out of it because I'm too close to it. So I will call this person, and this person is a person that I know that I can trust. And I'm going to tell you, she will call me out.
Yep.
And it's hard because I do want to kind of get into the same space. Like, oh yeah, oh, and she'll go, yeah, Michelle, the famous, she's so high and mighty, oh yeah, Michelle could never do anything wrong. Oh no, and I just sit there and go, okay, I'm listening.
No, I think this is so powerful. It's so powerful for you guys to hear this because coaches have coaches. I have coach. I have actually a couple of coaches, and I have friends who are really, really smart, and they help me call me out of my crap all the time. And so you're right. Like, even experts get too close into it. It's too much in our own faces, and we can't see the reality that we all need somebody to help us outside of that. And I think that it comes down to that trust, that you have to be willing to trust someone else to help you through that. And you have to trust yourself that you're worth the investment, that you're worth the time, that you're worth the work, because it's not easy, is it? To refine ourselves is hard work, but it's so worth it.
Not. And and the thing is that one of the key things that I tell people is I know that this can happen and that transformation is possible because I did it.
Right.
And I am a whole different person than I was before. I'm not anywhere near the person that I was before.
I know. And we never even got into any of that, which is like, what the Unstuck podcast is all about, is like you telling your story. But girlfriend, we didn't even get there because you have so much good stuff in here. So this is my invitation to have you back because I want to hear that story for sure. And, one thing I always finish my podcast with a question that I ask you to have the audience ponder. And I think that one small step that they can take right now on their own is some reflection, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say if you could imagine the best version of yourself, or you can imagine your greatest potential, if you could just step into an alternate reality. Okay. Just imagine that there's a door and you're walking into another version of yourself. Okay. She still has red hair. She still has green eyes. She might even wear red lipstick, but there's something different about her. She's achieved the things that you've always wanted to achieve. And then you look at that and you analyze it and you think about it. And you ask yourself, what is it? And when you can see your own personal path and you can see where you're going, then you can get there. A lot of times people don't know where they want to go. They just want to get out of the mess.
Yes.
Okay. And so you can't get out of the mess unless you know where you're going. If you keep on pointing the arrow just wherever, you're not going to land on anything. Okay. So that was actually in that new Marvel Comics movie. It's Shang-Chi or something like that. And there's this girl in there and she was like, I've never been good at anything. I try things and I give it up. And they had this area where all these different monks and stuff were like taking bow and arrows, and he hands her a bow and arrow and says, hit the target. And he says to her, if you don't have something to aim at, you will never hit the target.
It's so true.
So you've got to figure that out. And the best way to do that is to do that little exercise. Okay. Is to imagine that there's a door, you're stepping into an alternate reality. You get to view this version of yourself. You still has the same, internal things going on, maybe, still has the same mom and dad and all this other stuff. She just made different choices. And if you can look at that and you can see, where did she go? What is she doing? And really try to get into all the details. Not that she's confident. She's self-assured. Like, what brought her there? What is she doing? What exactly is she doing? And really get into the details of that and really try to visualize that, because if you can see it, then you can head towards it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. Michelle, thank you so much. I'm going to make sure that everybody has all the ways they can connect with you inside of the show notes. So we will have all of Michelle's stuff, her social stuff, her website, everything inside the show notes. That way everybody can get a chance to contact you or get to know you if they choose to, because, oh my gosh, you have so much amazing brilliance to add to this world. I can't wait for our next conversation. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Unstuck podcast. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. And don't forget to check out the show notes if you want to get into my private club, the Better Club, to be able to learn better ways to be better, do better, and have better. So until next time, keep showing up. Let's get unstuck together. Have a great day.